A serious threat to New Mexico's environment has been removed, and the land that it was threatening is now being restored. It's a positive outcome that began when Dean Staley exposed the threat in a special assignment report. Tonight, 2 years later, he's back at the now clean scene of what had been a major mess.
From the air, you could easily see the massive black scar on the land. An entire arroyo, more than a quarter of a mile long, filled with tens of thousands of old tires. Then newly elected Land Commissioner Ray Powell first saw the extent of the problem when we showed him our video more than 2 years ago.
That is an absolute mess. That's incredible.
The future of this giant dump site on state trust land near Wagon Mound was uncertain. It was a standoff between the state and Harold Daniels, who leased the land. Daniels admitted to taking money to dispose of old tires at a landfill he owns, then dumping them here on the state-owned land he leased for cattle grazing. At the time, he argued it wasn't pollution.
What do you say to people who say this guy's just created a tire dump out in an arroyo on public land?
It's not a tire dump. It's an erosion control project.
But the new land commissioner saw it differently and sued Daniels to force him to clean it up. It was 2 long years of back and forth before Daniels agreed to a settlement. He paid a $30,000 fine and promised to remove all of the tires from the arroyo. That was 5 months ago.
It was an enormous mess. Your worst nightmare for state trust lands.
What does it look like now? We flew back in Sky News 13 with Powell. The last of the tires were stacked and baled, waiting to be trucked away. The arroyo itself, once filled with more than 150,000 old tires, now empty.
It looks like we've got the tires out, and we're on our way to returning the land to the health that it requires to be productive.
The close-up flight we took 2 years ago that looked like this now looks like this.
We greatly appreciate your breaking story that brought this to public attention. It had a lot to do with getting it cleaned up today.
We got on the ground for a closer look. Where once there were tires piled so high you had to climb over them, nothing. An environmental disaster averted.
If this hundreds of thousands of tires caught on fire, it would have been a Superfund site. We would have had groundwater contamination, downstream contamination, air quality contamination. Those fires, petroleum fires, burned for years.
Now this arroyo looks much like it did before Daniels turned it into a tire dump. There is barely a hint of the tens of thousands of tires that were here just a few months ago. As part of his agreement with the state, Daniels still has to reseed grass on the land around the arroyo to help restore it back to its natural state. The fines and the cleanup now stand as a warning to others.
But if somebody thinks they're going to get away with throwing trash on the trust and making money in the process, think again, because we'll find you and we'll hold you responsible and we'll make you clean it up.
On special assignment, Dean Staley, KRQE News 13.
Harold Daniels, the man who dumped the tires, says he still believes the tire dump was a successful erosion control project. He says it cost him $300,000 to remove the tires and ship them to a recycling plant in Texas. That is not including the $30,000 fine and $50,000 he says he ran up in legal fees.